The purple plume was clearly visible even in the midday sun. Asher had been following it like a guiding star as he crossed the plains of Numeria, and he guides his horse Mayim through the gates as he's finally arrived and heads to the stable. He exchanges a few pleasantries with the stable master, asks about his lodging options, and opts to give the Evercandle a try. With his eyes transfixed on the torch, Asher stumbles his way towards the inn a bit before finally tearing his gaze away. He wipes the dust and mud off his boots, scraping the bottom along the front edge of the wooden planks, and enters the inn.
Hello, stranger. If you're looking for lodging, we do have a room available. But keep things quiet and keep things tidy, or it's off to the boarding house with you.
Asher tips his hat respectfully and smiles.
Well met, ma'am. Indeed, I am looking for lodging here, and I can assure you I can and will abide by those reasonable terms. I am grateful for the hospitality. I am called Asher Halich.
Well, we shall see, Asher.
The two agree upon the standard rate, and Asher goes up to his room. It's simple but clean, and Asher observes everything's place and condition so as to be sure to return things the way they were when he leaves. Not that he's in any hurry to leave, he only just got here. Finally got here. He places his backpack on the bed and arranges his smelting equipment on the desk for later. There's no time for crafting now. There's so much to see and to learn. He follows the sound of hammers and anvils to the forge. Asher's eyes are wide with wonder as he politely observes the working of metals unlike any he'd ever seen. Metals that fell from the stars. As the sun sets, the purple light of the torch seems even brighter. Asher makes his way to the foundry. Not the foundry or the foundry, but the foundry. He sits at a table by a window looking at the torch. He thinks about how different the stars look here compared to his home in Geb's Rest, all the way across the world on the continent of Gerund. He's lost in thought when a man clears his throat to get his attention. Asher sees who he assumes must be an employee and greets him.
Ah, hello there. Well met, sir. You have quite the establishment here. I am called Asher Halich. If it isn't apparent, I have only just arrived in town today. There's something special about this place, and I can't quite put my finger on it. There's more to Torch than just the torch, I suppose you could say. I've traveled a long way from home, and been through many, many places.
He chuckles to himself.
I've been through burning buildings, nearly drowned in the inner sea, encountered bandits in the river kingdoms. I find myself in 2 fistfuls of trouble, more often than not, but I've made it here. It's all been worth it. How lucky am I? I'm sure you're busy, so I won't keep you here, but perhaps we can talk more another time.
He offers a friendly wave as he returns to gazing out the window. A smile crosses his face as he shakes his head, marveling at the journey he's been on just to make it to this town. Tomorrow he'll set out to explore the area, see what he can scavenge, and soak in every bit of his surroundings. But that's tomorrow. For tonight there's nowhere in the world Asher would rather be than right here in Torch, watching the bright purple plume burn against the night sky.
Yes,
Asher says to himself.
How lucky am I?
This is Spot Against the Machine.
Spot Against the Machine.
Welcome back to Pot Against the Machine, the only Pathfinder actual play that's contractually obligated to kill every character before Book 3 ends. I'm your host, and here's everybody.
We did
I don't
meet
like
with
that
legal,
plan.
and that is true.
Is it?
Yeah. Always read your contracts before you sign them, kids.
Yeah, none of us read our contracts. That's what it was. Yeah.
I read mine.
Well, sorry that that's the first you're hearing of it, Izzy, but...
Yeah, I skimmed it.
We're also obligated to take all of the tears that we generate during this episode and put them into a jar and send them to Sam. For some reason. It's on the 4th page.
I've got a shelf for it. So previously on the program, the party, after finding a potentially workable air-to-surface vehicle sort of thing, like a little escape pod in the ruins of the Dusklight, decided they needed to find a way to actually get it out from being stuck in a ship under a river. So they went down the maintenance hatch to the deck below, where they found the crew of the Dusklight, or what was left of them, which was a series of the irradiated dead zombies that could, of course, spew radiation. Now, due to some issues with the shape of the room, Asher wound up running into the room by himself before the hallway got clogged up, and he was surrounded by 3 of these zombies while the rest of the party tried to fight their way in. Unfortunately, it didn't go great for him as he went down to unconsciousness, and still the party couldn't get to him through the choke point. No, eventually, Asher breathed his last. The party finished off the zombies and retrieved their friend. Forgot about the ship under the river, brought him out, got on Long Dreamer, and went back to Torch with their deceased friend, who had just recently specifically mentioned if he died, he didn't want to be brought back. So the party went to City Hall and they told Dolga what was happening and asked if he could be buried at the former home of Garmin Ulrith, which has sat empty since Garmin's disappearance from town. And she was quick to agree, after which each member of the party went their separate ways. And that's where we are now. So I think with everyone in separate spots here, we're going to take these one at a time, go through just what everybody's doing with the rest of the evening here. So first, Jero, where has Alwyn gone?
I think Alwyn, who is still kind of upset by this whole thing more than he expected to be, like surprisingly so, is going to go to the Pharasma Church, and I think he's going with the thought in mind, just he's going to see if Radley has diamond dust, because he's just trying to take his mind off things. He's thinking to the future, like, okay, I'm going to need this in a few days for me and a few more days for Brixby. Let me go get that. And that's where he's heading. He's going to see if Father Radley is in.
And it's late enough in the day at this point that the church is pretty dark, but there's a few torches going. And Radley is by himself in the main room of the Chapel of the Wanderer, where he's sort of busying himself in the back for rearranging some things from the day's services.
And Alwyn will come in. He still looks awful, like he's still got kind of like the weird, like cracked glaze skin from his one negative level that he still has, and he also has like frost burns all over him from when he destroyed the symbol of Caldera with his thing, because he didn't bother to heal himself after that. Like, he didn't really care to. So I imagine he comes in just looking not great, and says, excuse me, Father Radley.
Yes, what can I do for you? Alwyn, was it?
Yes, it was. Well, and he's going to kind of walk up and he sits down in the first pew and just kind of stares up at the priest and he says, I was going to ask you for something, but now that I think about it, I think with the strange way you all barter, we have to sell some things first, so maybe I won't ask you that, but I have another question. You worship the survivor. He kind of thinks for a second. Lady of Graves, you call her.
Indeed. Pharasma goes by many names, and those are a couple of them.
He is supposed to take the dead, or at least judge the dead, from what you believe, correct?
Yes, Pharasma awaits in the boneyard as the never-ending procession of the dead slowly make their way to her for a judgment and to be sent along to their final eternal destinations.
And that happens to everyone that dies.
Every single soul must be judged, indeed.
I just wonder, I don't know if you know, in fact, I don't know how you would, but when we investigated this place, this tower, there was an evil wizard there, but he was dead. It's a long story, but at one point I died. At least everyone said I died. They brought me back with resurrection magic, and he pulled up his arm with all the cracks on it. I was able to restore some of the damage that was done, but I haven't been able to fix it all yet. But when I was not alive, I saw no boneyard. None of these afterlives that any of you talked about. I simply went back to being one with everything.
Oh. That is very strange indeed. Perhaps your soul was bound to this place for some reason beyond you or me, and these things do happen. There are ghosts and spirits and haunts of various types, and there are always people who remain after their death. But this is a temporary state. Eventually, all must go to the Lady of Graves.
A temporary state. In this state, from others that you've talked to or heard about, could they see whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted? Something like seeing beings like Fae, nobility, demon lords, things that your kind don't consider gods, but that are more, just as powerful, sometimes more so. Can they see things like seeing the Aslanti, the one you call Eredin, performing his miracle and seeing that it looked like something anyone could do if they were as strong as he was? Can they see creatures that are truly atheist recording books on the gods that are more like field guides than anything else?
Now, I am an old man, but I must say you are only the second person that I've ever spoken to, at least that I know of, that has come back from beyond. So you'll have to forgive me if my knowledge of this realm is some speculation, and to some extent incomplete, but it is said that this plane of existence where the physical world is merely one of many existences, and the boneyard is one, and there are many in between. There are planes of existence where time itself is, instead of something that progresses linearly, it's instead something that you can walk through as you would walk across this room. Now, perhaps I claim no expertise on your particular experience, but perhaps something offered you a glimpse into one of these modes of existence that are completely foreign to the way we live here, the way we perceive life and time, and I'm afraid I cannot offer you a satisfactory answer on this.
And you see it looks like he's kind of getting more and more upset as he's listening to the father, and says back after that, "That's one explanation. Another could be that none of it is true. These things that have convinced you all that they're gods, maybe you only go to their realms, these other realms, because you believe you will. Just like," and he's getting, his voice really isn't changing, but he's just getting, you can tell he's getting more and more agitated. "Just like they can convince you that powers you have are theirs to give and to take away if you don't act exactly like they think you should. Why," and he just kind of hangs his head, "why do you revere these things? Why do you worship them? They're not gods, they're monsters."
I know, as far as I'm concerned, I have prayed to the same Grey Lady for more than 60 years. Every morning when I wake, every night before I go to sleep, and depending on the day, multiple times throughout. Most of my prayers have gone unanswered, but some of them have been answered in both palpable ways and ways that are much more subtle. Of course, she has faithfully granted me a modicum of magic as a follower of hers, and I use that magic to take care of this place, take care of the people in this town. I do not think that only gods can do these things, but I think the willingness to act as a shepherd for the countless lives in this world and all the worlds beyond, that is not a monstrous thing in my understanding.
"And if you used your power, the power that comes from Pharasma, in a way that helped people, that protected them, but was also a way that Pharasma didn't like, and she took that power from you, you would think that was fair?"
I do not pretend that I will ever know better than a being whose life is older than the stars themselves, whose mind extends to places I can only imagine, who can see things that I daren't ever imagine. I think I would be angry, I would be bitter, and I would question, but it is not sometimes for we mortals to know.
I lived where I lived before I came here and met my friends Brixby and Kira and Asher. We had gods we worshipped, and we had enemies of those gods, beings that we disliked. And there were some that were personally dangerous to us, was before my time, but the Aslanti was one of them then. After that, there was the Dawnflower, and there was the Gold Mask, and there are many others, but one, even though it never had much interaction with us, that was hated above all the rest, was the one we called the Survivor, Pharasma, because our teachings from our gods was that Pharasma was meant to die a very, very long time ago. Everything was meant to end, and Pharasma fled, and then created something new, and more new things formed there, and it eventually led to all of this, and this imperfect, horrible world where someone can show up and claim their god owns your land and you need to submit or die, or a man can protect his friends and his god can tell him he can no longer use her power, and it can kill him. And I left the colony once everyone else was gone because one of my mothers said that I should form my own opinions on whether our way was right or whether the way of the people outside is right. And I started leaning towards believing maybe your way was right, but now I think that was wrong. I think that what we were taught in the colony is right, that none of this should exist. This world is corrupt, and these things you worship are the cause of it. And I don't mean any disrespect to you and what you do, but I just... And he just kind of hangs his head and is silent.
And Radley's face has, like, very obviously darkened at the mention of these things that I'm sure are not entirely foreign to him as a longtime priest of Pharasma, but are definitely outlandish. And he takes a second after Alwyn finishes speaking, and he'll just sort of reach up and sort of hesitantly, like, reach to put a hand on Alwyn's shoulder. And if he doesn't see any sort of negative reaction before doing it, he'll just sort of give him a gentle squeeze on the shoulder and say, "It's all right to be angry, my child. It's all right to rage against the gods themselves if you need to. They've heard worse."
I've just never felt like this before. I've seen people hurt and even killed for many reasons. I don't know if you know what happened, but Asher, he was sort of like our leader almost, I think you could say. He was such a good person, the best person I've met since I left the colony, maybe the best person I've met since my mother, and he's dead. And he's dead because he couldn't protect us. He tried and he couldn't because he lost his abilities from his god, and it killed him.
I didn't know. I am deeply and earnestly sorry that a man like him is no longer in this world. I cannot answer for his god, and I cannot answer for cruel turns of fate.
I understand. I was maybe hoping to hear some kind of answer, but like you said, maybe there isn't one. Or maybe we have to find our own. Is it okay if I come back later? Maybe tomorrow? I don't know how people here deal with death rites. I don't know how long this will take, but when we have, and he gets kind of confused again for a second, when we have money, is it okay if I come back and get diamond dust from you?
Yes, we can sort that out when the time comes. I'm sure we'll be able to figure something out.
And I think he's just gonna kind of hang his head again and just sit there for a little while longer, probably. And eventually, I think if I imagine the father probably gives him his space. I think maybe after a few more minutes, he'll get up and head back outside and just start kind of wandering around, waiting for nightfall.
And Radley will just do the sort of hand signal of the spiral as Alwyn walks away. And we'll end that scene. So, Izzy, I believe you mentioned that Kira was going to go home.
Yep, Kira's headed home. And on the way, does she pass anyone, like, as she's walking from wherever her friends were to her house?
I imagine there are, like, a few people still out. It's not super late by any means.
Okay. Well, she accidentally runs into one of those people. She has chainsaw and, let's say, greatsword across her back, and is holding in her hands the knife, the dagger that she got from Parta's parents, and just staring at it and turning it over and over in her hands. And doesn't notice this person and walks into them a little bit.
I think she sends this unfortunate person sprawling just by sheer momentum.
Second tallest. So I think she knocks this person over, almost steps past them, turns around, is like, watch where you're going. And then sort of has a moment of like, oh, what was that? And then, I'm sorry. I wasn't watching where I was going. Are you okay? And she'll bend down to help them up.
And it's probably a guy that she's seen around town plenty of times before, but not really anybody she knows personally. And he'll sort of hesitantly take the hand up and say, sorry, I just was looking way past you. I guess sorry, I didn't mean to. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. I'm not, I don't, are you worried? I'm not worried. This is fine. It's fine. Go have a good night. Bye.
Yeah,
and we'll
you too.
Turn and continue on toward the house.
He'll stand there confusedly watching as she goes before resuming his path in the other direction.
So she starts heading back toward the house, and as she's going, she's getting slower and slower and slower. Just like there's this sense of reluctance. So she doesn't want to actually get home, even though she was excited about it, or at least felt like she had to do it a few minutes ago. Now that she's on her own, she's a little more hesitant. And so by the time she reaches the door, just like lifts a hand to knock and then just stands there. Probably for a few minutes, unless someone happens to see her and come out.
I think there are lights on in the house. Well, probably not on, but like burning lanterns or something. And there's like the sound of activity. It sounds like maybe they're cleaning up after dinner, and there's just like a little bit of muffled talking through the door. I don't think anybody noticed Kira's approach, and nobody sort of knew she was coming, so they're not exactly on the lookout.
I think she's going to take the chainsaw off her back and put it in her lap, and then just kind of sit down with her back against the door. And I, the player, will hope that someone comes to the door before the end of the night, because I don't know that she would immediately get up.
I think it takes a little longer than is comfortable, and I think Kira probably Will get the sense that it's not going to happen after a little while. That it just seems like nobody's going to do it, and then
she's like half asleep by the time anyone comes to the door.
Yeah, it's been like a while, and there's just been like a quiet night, and there's fewer and fewer lights on in the house. But then the door opens rather suddenly, and there's Caden standing there, and he like starts when he opens the door, and there's somebody there, and he just sort of can see the top of Kira's head, and he just says, Kira?
And she does that thing where she tries not to fall backwards as the door opens, and then redoubles her grip on the chainsaw and turns around again, almost aggressively, like she's ready to fight, even though she's sitting on the ground, and then sees it's her dad and says, "Oh, hi, Dad. Hey, Dad. Hi, Dad. I'm home to visit, and how are you?"
I'm fine. What are you doing out here in the cold? Wouldn't you rather come inside? He'll like hold a hand out to help you up.
She'll start to reach for his hand and then stop, and then still sitting on the ground. Dad, is Mom around?
Yeah, she's just inside. Do you want me to get her?
Yeah, I think maybe before I come inside, I should talk to Mom.
Oh, okay. It'll be just a moment, and like he's definitely getting a things aren't right vibe. So he'll kind of nervously go off into the other room, and then you can hear his muffled voice and Willow's muffled voice, and then the door opens and the shadow moves across the room, and Willow's footsteps come up behind Kira, and she's standing like inside the doorway a few feet in, so you can sort of look. She can look at you without being right on top of Kira.
Yeah, and Kira's facing away, the chainsaw just clutched against her chest and her head down, all over here in her face. It's very, very moody teen of her. But we'll hear Willow come up and turn around. Hi, Mom. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here. And then we'll like start to walk away.
That's never true, darling. And she'll rush forward, like closing the distance pretty quickly, and come right out of the house after Kira and say, "What's wrong?"
And Kira just starts crying. Just everything. I can't be here. I'm sorry. I'm not who I thought I was. I thought that I could keep my friends safe and you guys safe and be a hero and adventurer like you, but Mom, I can't. Everyone that I know, Mom. Asher's gone. He's really gone, and he's not coming back. And he was only the most recent one, Mom. And she'll hold out the dagger that part his parents gave her, and it's like, I don't think that I should have this anymore. Can you take it?
And she's like gotten, right in front of her daughter, and she's looking up at her, and she puts a hand on the dagger without actually taking it away, just like so they're both touching it at the same time, and she'll say, "I'm so sorry. It's the hardest thing in the world to lose someone, especially when you've formed a bond like you did with Asher, with Parda. And I know that your reaction is always going to be to blame yourself, but I don't know how it happened. I wasn't there for you, but I know you, and I know that you did everything that you could. We can't control everything, and we can't protect everyone all the time. The best we can do is our best, Kira, and I know that you do yours."
And almost before she's done talking, Kira's shaking her head and like just scrubs at her face, wipes away some tears, still crying. It's like, no, Mom, you don't understand. Mom, I was so mean to him the last time we talked. I was so mad. I barely even remember what we were talking about anymore, but he tried to do something for us. He's always doing things for us, Mom, and I got mad at him, and I shouldn't have, and the last thing I said, Mom, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch any more friends die. I don't know how. I don't know how, Mom, please. I want to be done now.
You don't have to go back out there. You don't owe anyone anything, Kira. You already are a hero. What you've done for this town, what you've done for New Maria, it's more than enough, and it's more than anyone could have asked of you. You're far too young to have lost a dear friend like Asher, let alone more than one.
Mom, if I stay here, I don't know if you'll be safe either. I thought I was strong enough to protect them, to protect all of them. Alwyn and Brixby and Asher and Parda. But I don't think I'm strong enough, Mom, and I don't know how to get stronger.
To some extent, I don't know that there's such a thing as strong enough. This world can be a dark and cruel place. Sometimes it's willing to take everything you can give and more.
And Kira finally takes like a deep breath, and just one of those kind of breaths, and wipes her face with an arm. He's like, Can I stay here tonight? Is that okay? I don't think that I should be around my friends right now.
It's always okay, Kira. You can stay here whenever you want to.
Thanks, Mom. And we'll give her sort of a tentative hug. And then as she steps back, looks at the dagger that's still in her hand again. Like, I don't think I can give this back to Parda's parents. Can I leave it here with you?
I can hold it for you until you're ready to carry it again.
Kira nods. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mom. I love you.
And she'll give you a hug back that is not tentative at all. It's much, much harder. And I think after a little bit of bone crunching, she says, this world is not a fair place, and you know that better than most people twice your age. Come on, let's get you inside. Let's fill you up with something, and then you can get some rest.
And Kira just nods. Having forfeited her Sky Metal Smith feat, that adds a +2 to some will saves. She's just not feeling worthy of that right now. So, Sam, don't use that against me, please. Thank you.
I will absolutely never ask you to make a will save again.
Yeah. That
for the rest
fair.
of this episode, probably. So I think she'll lead Kira back inside to have whatever beet-based concoction they served for dinner. That brings us to Brixby, who I believe was staying with Asher after bringing him over to the former Garmin's house.
The first part of Brixby's day looks a little bit like Aaron's. He's moving around the town. You see him talking to Dolga, to Connor, to Longdreamer. You see him gathering flowers and incense. Then, later, when night comes, you see him putting the body of his friend on a lovingly constructed pile of flowers and young branches and soft mosses. And then he leaves. And he goes to... Well, he follows the clucking first. And he goes to Charlie's. He goes to the chicken pen outside. And unsurprisingly, he finds Alwyn there. Squatting, looking at the chickens.
Yeah, he's just kind of sitting morosely up against the fence, kind of staring into the chickens.
Brixby just kind of walks from behind and puts his paw on Alwyn's shoulder and looks down.
Says, "Come, we're gonna get Kira."
Okay.
And then, as they're walking, Brixby doesn't really talk. He's just looking down. And when they get to Kira's house, he knocks on the door.
And I think once again it's Caden who answers the door as Willow's otherwise occupied. He has a somber expression on his face because by now he knows, and he says, "Hello."
Caden. And the esteemed Lightning Face. It's good to see you both. Can I speak to Kira, please?
If you just want to wait in the front room, I'll see if she's able to come out, and he'll rush off to find her.
And I think when Kira comes out to the living room, she is like full sprint, chainsaw out. Like, what happened? What happened?
Charge action on Brixby. He's gone.
Chainsaw out, but also wrapped in a blanket.
Rip.
Hey. I think the three of us and a few others should gather this evening. If you feel that you're up to it. I'd really like to have you there.
Yeah, of course, I'll come. And starts to walk toward the door, and then thinks about it for a second. Is like, I have to get something, and will disappear for a little bit and return with the dead friend blanket. Because it's time. It's time to retire the DFB. Yeah, okay, let's go.
So Brixby leads them back to the house. And when we're there, we see both Connor and Dolga, as well as Long Dreamer. And in the yard that was overgrown, pretty much today, in between all of his errands, he tried his best to prune back any growth that wasn't flowers. So it kind of looks a little riotous and overgrown, but it also kind of has like a cloistered, cozy feeling to the sort of makeshift garden that is in the backyard of Garmin's house. And Brixby looks at Alwyn for a moment and says,
"Forgive me, but we all live our way."
and he pulls out a scroll and some pieces. And he casts Greater Make Whole on Asher's religious icon. And he holds it in front of Asher, and then he kneels. Loud enough for anyone to hear if they want to, but enough for folks to disregard if they want to pay their respects in a different way. He says,
"Pardon me. I've actually done this. Prayed, that is. But I myself recently stood in the Grey Lady's queue, and I must entreat you, you'll hear me, on behalf of my friend, our friend, Asher Halick. Our friend Asher never abided in injustice visited upon an innocent soul, nor an injury to another's freedom. He protected the weak, his charges from all danger, and begins to cry. Perhaps what I fear the most, his friends from themselves. He never abandoned another in need. Companion or no, he never missed an opportunity to seize this thread
divine luck that spirals from you. Oh, the calamitous turn. Chaldera Zuzaristan. He was as bold as he was brave, and as charitable as he was endlessly curious, and as irreplaceable and beautiful as a falling star. And I fear that in this immeasurable void left in his passing, I feel a resonating echo, catastrophic consequence for this cursed country and perhaps this entire world. The way before us has always been perilous and fraught. Tonight it gets darker still. But for him, for all of them, for us, we have to face this dark and expect the inevitable dawn. Only because we saw our first glimpses of that perfect coming light in him. Asher Halick, he died as he lived in a gesture of love and service and sacrifice, and I swear to him and to you and the stars and the sphere herself that it will not be in vain. While I'll never be as strong or as wise or as good as he is, I will continue his fight. And I know it's not my place, a new devotee of Desna, to be asking you this. But I plead when this man approaches the shuttered windows of the Hearth-grown house, and that warm mixture of firelight and laughter is leaking out the edges, that he finds an open door. Thank you. And Brixby fishes in his pocket, and he pulls out a button. The button. And he puts it on Asher's body. And then he gets real close. And my friend, I know when you get inside, your seat will always be by the fire. You will never eat or drink alone. And everything you touch, dice, cards, will be dripping with luck. You'll want for nothing. Someday, my friend, I have a feeling we'll see each other sooner or later. And then he picks the button back up. And he turns to Long Dreamer. He carried this button. I don't know much about it, but I caught him looking at it at the end of his watch some nights, flickering flames of the dying fire. In my conversations with him about his good, you about ours, gleaned that this is a symbol that's very important to his faith. Can you, my friend, carry this with you in your travels up there amongst the stars? And his body will rest here, in this soil, in this land that his deeds made free. But his heart, his light, belongs up there. It is as bright as any other. You know what? Maybe someday you'll find yourself in Axis. And you'll see that uniquely raucous and sprawling amalgamation of inns and boroughs. Maybe you'll find him, and you can give it to him. He'll be right by the fire. Brix turns to Connor and Dolga. Tomorrow, the people of Torch will gather here to remember him, and then we will bury him fully. And after, he turns to the Azers, I'd like you, along with Connor, to make a statue of him here. This will be a place where people of Torch, Numeria, come to pray for luck. This will be a shrine to Chaldera Zuzaristan. Star-crossed lovers will come here, begging to catch the eye if they're desired. The lost will come here seeking another chance, and the redeemed will make their pilgrimage here, myself included, one day, to show gratitude to a man and much more, his immeasurable devotion to the betterment that accompanies a dawning of a day that he nor we may never see break. This will be a place of hope, and this is the hope that saves Numeria.
I think Long Dreamer, in her hand approximation appendages, will take the button when Brixby offered it to her, and at this point her glowing wings are the primary source of light on the ground, and of course up above there's the flickering purple of the torch. And she'll sort of tuck it away into her fur in the silent acknowledgement that she'll carry it. And I think by now, like, there's a few more people have come around since you gathered them. Like Connor came and Val has come running, and she's brought like a group of others. As the town is sort of gathering up in this backyard that not too long ago belonged to essentially a gangster, but it sat empty for quite some time now, and Dolga will clap Brixby on the shoulder and she'll say, thank you for that. Thank all of you for all that you've done for this town, for all of us. I won't pretend to be a speech maker. Bride knows no one needs to hear me natter on, but I do wish to honor the life of a great man, of a good man, a decent man. He was not born here, and he was only here for a short while, but still he agreed to risk his life time and again for our well-being when we most needed a hero. And I think the thing that I will remember most about Asher Halick is the day when the very capable four emerged from under the hill. When we and you saw the torch burning again. The sheer joy on that man's face. He threw his hat up in the air. I think that's the only time I ever saw Asher's hair. I'm told that he had mentioned that he might, when all his adventures were through, have wanted to settle in our little town. I'm sorry that it had to happen this way, and I'm sorry that it had to happen so soon, but one way or another, Torch is a better place with Asher in it. And she opens her mouth like she's going to say more, but her face has gone all red, and her lips have gone pale, and after a moment, she seems to kind of decide against it, and just gives a nod and steps away. And by now I think there's more and more people here, and you start getting people piping up from the crowd. You get old Social Musgrave, who recounts Asher helping her up when she fell. And Kira's family members pipe up and remind the town of when he danced at dinner, and when Toby, of course, will hold up Lightning Face. The random urchin will pipe up and say that Asher told him one time that he was well met. Oscar and Tarrant, the smelt runner, will specifically mention that he never specifically annoyed her, and if you know Oscar, that's pretty much the best endorsement that she can give a person. Dinvaya will talk about Asher helping save her life. Jorm will talk about Asher bringing Dinvaya back to him. And the Azers, of course, will tell a brief version of the story of the very capable four helping save them, drag them out of the tower, bring them to a new home. Seth will specifically, yeah, that's right, Seth popped up. I don't know how they got word to her so fast, but she will mention that Asher sucked. He was the suckiest sucker of all. I think as the sort of momentum of this is starting to die down, Connor, who's been pretty quiet, he's standing right by Asher's body, and he's been looking down at him. And he speaks softly. He says, as a town, we've gathered together for occasions like this far too many times these last few months, to be certain. But today we mourn a man whose bravery, whose noble works gave us the chance to mourn at all. It is thanks to his willingness to plunge headlong into danger on behalf of people he hardly even knew, in many cases people he'd never even met, that this town, many of those in it, still live. A mysterious stranger who rushed into danger with a gun or 5 on his hip, and a twinkle in his eye, and a little bit of luck. Certainly, I am lucky to have met the man. Without his help, I would not be standing here today. Many of you can say the same. And I was trapped beneath the mountain, subject to, well, I'll spare you the details, but the results are plain enough to see. Asher's face was the first one I saw when I was freed. As I lay on the floor, master of neither my mind nor my body, unable to even form words, Asher Halick knelt down in front of me, offered me a helping hand. He called me sir. He pauses for a second, half laughing to himself, and he wipes the back of his hand across his eyes. He was good. He was strong. He wouldn't, for instance, steal anyone's bed. This was a man who didn't owe us anything, and yet he gave us everything time and again. Even when the very capable 4 emerged from under the hill, when the job was done and the torch was lit and the town was saved, he never stopped protecting us. As we celebrated, he warned us of the dangers of the Technic League turning their eye on Torch, a warning that proved prescient. He brought back the possessions of those who'd fallen under the Black Hill, personal effects and holy symbols, and turned them over to the council to be returned to their next of kin. And, to be quite frank, he trusted me when I gave him every reason to doubt. I owe more than my life to Asher Halick. It is a debt that can never be paid, but knowing him, he never would have accepted payment anyways. What more can I say? He, along with these noble souls, and one who could not be here today, volunteered to travel hundreds of miles to protect this town from the threat of Hellion, by all reports a demon or a god, with an army at his back. They came back victorious. They saved us again. But Asher and these 3 heroes, their work was not done. If Meanda's words are to be believed, they protect not just Torch now, but all of Numeria, if not the entire world. They drew the eye of the Technic League away from here at great personal risk, as they searched for a way to solve an impossible problem. Asher was a man who trusted his luck, and that luck helped him save innumerable people. It may have run out. He looks at the body, and he lets out a long, shuddering breath. But it was never wasted. He lived to protect us. He died to protect us. We can only strive to do good, to prove worthy of that sacrifice. Thank you. And as Connor turns and walks away from the body, going slowly on his 3 robotic legs so that they don't make too much noise, Val rushes over from his side up to the pile that Asher's been laid out on, and she's carrying this strange, lumpy little burlap doll. It looks homemade, maybe the size of a loaf of bread, with stubby little arms and legs that have been tied off. It's got a single piece of black string for a mouth and 2 wooden buttons for eyes. And she puts this little button fellow down on Asher's chest, kind of tucked in the crook of his arm. And then she walks away.
I'm going to go ahead and just, as she does that, take out the dead friend blanket and just almost like it's like a tucking action, just like tucking Asher in for the last time. And just before Kira turns away, will reach into her bag and take out a sticker. It just says tallest. And that's it.
So I'm guessing after a while, after everybody leaves, because it is getting dark, I think Alwyn will like try to unobtrusively kind of stay in the area until everybody else is gone, and he will then go back to the grave. Like, I'm assuming it's probably a couple hours before like everybody has filed away. Walks back and he just kind of looks down and he says, "What Brixby did was very good. He honored you in the way that I guess all of these people here do. And I hope it's okay if I can do something similar. I know a lot of the people here don't like what we do. It's why we always stayed to ourselves. But he's going to kneel down in front of the grave and he just says, brought warm by the primal clay, breathed life by the Sultan, and now embalmed by the Black Pharaoh, buried in the soil of the Forest Mother, and locked beyond the key and the gate. We commend your remains back to the universe." And he draws in the soil a symbol that looks similar to the Pharasma symbol, but kind of more wild, and it's the same symbol that's on the front of his book. And he's just quiet for a little bit longer, and then he gets up and he starts heading back towards, I'm assuming, the foundry to rest for the night.
And I think as we come to a close on the funeral of Asher Halick, in the gentle glow of Long Dreamer's wings, as more and more people retire, you all feel a warm wind blow for just a moment, and everybody levels up to level 11. But we'll talk about that next week, so I'm going to bed.
Good night, Sam.
Good night, Sam.
Night, Sam.
Good night, Sam.
Good night, Asher.
Good night, Asher.
Night, Asher.
Good night, Asher.
Against the machine.
Hot Against the Machine is property of Network Against the Machine LLC, all rights reserved. Pathfinder and the Iron Gods Adventure Path are property of Paizo Publishing. See their website for more details. Theme Against the Machine was written and performed by our own Zach. See the show notes for additional music and sound licensing. If you enjoyed the show, we encourage you to leave us a review.
Face forms.
You were doing the face thing on purpose, right?
Peace.
Okay, I was going to say.
Now recording!
Give me flashbacks of Izzy screaming
yes.
urine over it.
Hey! Adventurers, take me with you! Let's kill the Technic League.
Oh my god, I'd be so down for Iago to show up.
Yeah, I can't really do a good one, but oh well.
Just crank up the volume on whatever you're doing. That's
Just
We
oops, all
need
peaks.
to contact
Yeah.
Battle Zoo and have them make a 1E version of that April Fool's Day one they did, and we can just get like actual Iseki Gilbert Gottfried as a character. That one build a real world person.
he would be a bard. All sonic damage all the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. What is it? Like the one that shoots the
Yeah.
shards, Song of
The
Shards. The
song,
something-
word, something singer, word,
yeah, something
Word
spitter
worder.
singer. Yeah,
Sid,
no, it's
song slapper. Probably the song slapper.
The song
spitter.
slapper.
But I do know they do the whole like song of chords or whatever that thing is. Yeah.
Chord of
that's the
Shards.
song. Chord of Shards. That's the one. Yes. There's all
Song
songs.
of Storms. You're thinking of the Song of Storms from Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
No, you're thinking of Storm of Swords, the Game of Thrones novel.
Sound Striker. I was really close.
Sound
Sound
Striker.
Slapper.
Well, I think I remember this because really early. Jesus, gang, what do we do for 20 minutes? I feel like a toothpaste tube with nothing in it right now. I am just.